Hello, everyone. Brother Al McClaney with this week's stewardship video. And before we begin, let's read the disclaimer. No advice should be seen as a recommendation or an endorsement, as I am not a licensed financial advisor, and this is for educational purposes only. So please do your own research or con consult with your registered investment advisor, or if you have a certified financial planner. This video is titled Where Do I Start? And that's the most common question I get when I'm coaching someone regarding finances, or if I'm at church and someone stops me and they have a financial concern or a question, they'll ask me, well, where do I start? And it's usually involving, hey, do I pay off debt first? Do I increase my savings? Where do I start if I want to start investing? But as a believer, and as a Christian, the answer should be we start at the beginning, and we start in the beginning with God the Creator. And I was moved to think about this particular video several weeks ago when we had the total eclipse, and we're in Dallas, Fort Worth area, and we were in totality. We had about 3 to 4 minutes of total darkness when the eclipse happened. And it was April 8th of this year. And I got some pictures with my phone. I was wearing my special glasses to make sure shades so that I don't damage my eye. But this was the total eclipse, and I got pictures with my phone. This was at 1:40 p.m. 1:40 p.m. is what you're seeing here. And there was just a calm that happened in the whole neighborhood. And you can hear the neighborhood, all the kids who were a lot were out of school, and you can hear them going, wow, wow. And what I thought about is, wow, what an awesome God we have. Wow, what an amazing creator he is. And it just, for me, it showed reverence and what reflected on his total power of the Lord. And so Genesis verse 1, or chapter 1, verse 1, even people who don't know the Bible know this verse. If you start off by, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. In the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. So where do we start as believers before we even get into a financial plan? We start that God is the creator, and out of that comes his sovereignty. And we recognize that we are the created, worshiping and following the principles of the creator. In John 1, verse 14, now this is probably a scripture that most non-believers don't know, but we as believers should know it. John, first chapter, chapter 1, and then I'll go on, skip to chapter 14. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And then skipping to chapter 14, so when we start talking about Jesus specifically, and the Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory, the glory as of the only begotten of the Father, and that's the Son, full of grace and truth, full of grace and truth. And so that's where we begin. Where do I start? In the beginning with God the Creator. And see, this is a picture of my house, or our house, of me and Janine's house. This was at 1:43 p.m. You could barely see it to the left. Looks like, yeah, total darkness. At 1:43 p.m., and then you see what was going on above. April 8th, 1:43 p.m., not a.m., 1:43 p.m. And just for me, that brought that reverence of the Lord. First Chronicles 29:11, which was the verse of the day, that day for you version. It says, yours, Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory and the majesty and the splendor. For everything in heaven and earth is yours. Lord, is the kingdom. You are exalted as head over all. Everything in heaven and earth is yours, Lord. Is the kingdom. You are exalted as head over all. That's his sovereignty. So recognize him as creator. We're the created. And then his sovereignty means he is in control of everything. And from that, We talk about the beginning, Proverbs 9 and 10. And this happens to be today's verse. The reverent fear of the Lord, that is worshiping him and regarding him as truly awesome, is the beginning and the preeminent part of wisdom, its starting point and its essence. And the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding and spiritual insight. So we should be covered as a creator. We should be, as a creator, we're under the creator as a created, therefore, under his principles, under his thoughts, under his word. And there's always our main way of determining and understanding his word, of course, is the Bible. And this is a specific Bible I've mentioned before. So we can take it and understand that the over 2,300 scriptures, verses that talk about money and possessions, it does it for you. The Financial Stewardship Bible, which you can find on Amazon, the Financial Stewardship Bible on Amazon, and it's a contemporary English version that there is. So again, the quick review is we start with the creator, then we recognize he's the creator, we're the created, so we fall under his principles. And as Proverbs says, that's where wisdom starts. It starts with recognizing, and reverent fear is not scary fear. It's like those kids were saying that day, wow, that's recognizing his awesomeness. Wow, recognizing his wisdom. Wow, recognizing his principles. And those are the things that I should be following for my entire life. And specifically, as we address here on this stewardship videos, how we handle our money and possessions, the stewardship of our life. So there's the Financial Stewardship Bible. That's a great tool. And what we want to do is kind of trends as we kind of transform, not transform, but as we go ahead and go over to the money and market specifically part. This is this week's earnings, the 29th. Again, we're right in the thick of earnings season, and this week is no different. A lot of Fortune 500 companies are reporting. We've got Lilly, that's going to come up later. I'm going to talk about that. 3M, McDonald's, Coca-Cola, AMD, Amazon, Pfizer. We've got Coinbase for those of you who are looking for that exposure from Bitcoin and Ethereum. There's Novo Nordisk. You may know it because it's got a very popular weight loss drug out there, which is I think they make Ozempic. We've got Etsy, Kraft Heinz, Marriott. I mean, it's just a lot of companies reporting, and this will affect the market. Starbucks. I can go on and on this week of what's reporting. Amazon by itself will probably move the market. So I'm not making any recommendations because I'm going to show you a couple of positions that I have in my portfolio. This is not a recommendation. This is just giving you a kind of a peek behind the scene of what I did my research and I looked at. But before we do that, I want to look at uh, the Fed when it comes to decreasing interest rates. And why is this so important? Because we know if you want to add some fuel to a stock market fire that's in a bull market right now, we had some little selling a couple of weeks ago, but now it reversed. If you want to add more to keep that going or kind of juice it along, if the Federal Reserve decides to decrease interest rates, it'll just keep it going. But right now, because of inflation still a little hot, they're not reducing. And I went all the way. So you can go out and just do a Google search on the Fed probability tool, and this will show this. But May, June, July, those are those days. Hopefully you see my cursor here. There's no significant percent change probability going on. In fact, I think May and June was 97% that it stays within this current rate, which is 525 to 550 basis points. And you can see that reflected. This is actually September. But if you looked at the one in May and June, it's like 97% is going to stay the same. July starts to go to about, I think, 70 some percent. And September is the first time that they're meeting that is actually shows a slight probability that they may decrease it. So this represents 500 to 525 basis points, and that's 43.8% compared to 42.6%. It stays the same, which is the current one. So right now it's pushing out further and further that they're not decreasing. Some have said they may not even decrease this year. With that said, I told you, and I almost feeling to go back and read the disclaimer. But the disclaimer is I'm not making a recommendation, but these just happen to be some positions that I have that have been good winners for me. Microsoft, Calva, or Kava, I don't know how you pronounce it. I think it's Kava. My wife is actually bought some food from it. Some have called it the next what's the Chipotle. I don't know about that, but it's been good to me. Murphy Oil, I've had that a long time. It's been good. And Novo Nordisk, and that's taking playing in that weight loss drug area. And these two asterisks represent that if I'm looking to try to add some more exposure to this. Hava and Novo Nordisk. What's not been so good for me is Ford. This is left over from my dad had it in a portfolio. I've kept it. And I put it here, losers always lose, but it hasn't been really a loser. It just hasn't gained anything. But I'll probably just continue to keep it. Why? That's kind of my exposure to electric vehicles. But here's something to think about. This is an idea, and I would love to add more. So Zepbound is another weight loss um, drug which you inject. You can't find it. I mean, it's constantly being sold out. It's so much demand for it. And this is Eli Lilly. Now, Eli Lilly is trading about, I think, $730 a share, and that's a little rich. But there's different ways you may get exposure to this. You can do an exchange traded fund, and the symbol is PPH in the exchange traded fund or ETF. That's the acronym for it, PPF. And it has 11% of the weighting is Eli Lilly, and 9% is Novartis. The other way is to go out and get some slices or fractional shares like TD Ameritrade, which is being bought out by Charles Schwab. You could get some slices of Eli Lilly or some fractional shares, I think is what they call it with Fidelity. That's another way. Just an idea. Do your own research. So with that, let's close out. You can see where I was talking about. Here's SPY, in which there is a the market was on a bull going up. Then we had that selling, and then it took back off again. What's driving that? The first part of earnings. And some of the people that I kind of follow involving investments say this is definitely going to be a market if it continues to go back up again, driven by any earnings good news or forward-looking earnings that it's good news, because no longer is the market pricing in that we're going to get an interest rate decrease anytime soon. Oh, and I skipped right past QQQ. So I went back to it. So QQQ is usually the one I do first anyway. That's related to more technology and small companies. Same thing. It was selling off because that was technology. Then it started going back up again, probably based on Microsoft and Google reported really good earnings. So you can see how earnings affects the overall market. And then again, that's SPY, that's S&P 500. So that closes out this week. It's an exciting time. April, we're closing out, getting ready to go into the May timeframe. Hard to believe we're in month 5 of this year. Years flying by already. We'll look up, it'll be the middle of the year. So as always, remember Jesus is Lord. As we get back to the beginning, he's our creator. We're the created. Jesus is Lord, but we're his faithful stewards following the principles of the creator in all of our life, and of course, including our stewardship of our money, time, talent, treasure, all of those things fall under him. We'll see you next week. Bye.